Thank you, Alex, and thanks everyone for having us be able to present this special workshop for alumni and for students, graduating seniors. I'm sure there's a good number of them here as well. We realized that we needed to do a special kind of program that, you know, in this kind of unprecedented job market, there are so many different concerns that that everyone has, whether they're a current student who's entering the job market for the first time, or an alum maybe who is experiencing a job loss. The first thing that we need to focus on really is where you're at and yourself. Let's go to the first slide, Jess. Jessica?
It froze a little. Give me a sec. Sorry about that.
Okay. Oh, I thought it was me. There we go. So you know, most folks would realize, but if you haven't already, obviously the first thing is self-care. The first thing before you embark on a job search, on any job search, is really to get your mindset ready and recognize that you need to take care of yourself and organize before you begin to enter the process of job searching. We've all been thrust into this virtual world as a disruption to our lives. We have to look at our own personal health. Are we eating correctly? Are we exercising? Whatever works for you, but taking advantage of the help that's available in this virtual world is really important. I think we found the opportunity for free exercise programs, entertainment, support. This kind of information is available to us, so it's good that we use it in order to give ourselves the support we need before we embark on this job search. You know, even doing things like that you may already have found that can help create some sense of normalcy in a very abnormal situation. Dressing for work. I always dress for work. You know, I am wearing work pants as long as they're comfortable. You know, I think it's important. Yes, I do have a job now, and there are times that I have to present in a certain way. But I think even when you're unemployed, you need to be able to establish some sort of professionalism for yourself to be able to move forward. Have a news blackout. Don't listen to the news constantly like I was doing, because that can be extraordinarily depressing. So it's good to revive yourself in whatever way you can. Let's go to our next slide. Freezing, Jessica?
Yes. So let me try again.
Okay. It's giving me a chance to talk longer. You don't want me to do that, though.
There we go. Okay.
We're on number 3. Okay. So how to prepare for that entry level position or the enter position. Identify what your current status are. You know, you have to begin where you are. The graduating senior who's looking for their first time, the recent alum who may be experiencing job loss. We know that has happened to a number of folks. The career changer who maybe was in the process of deciding on a new career, and now that has to change, is shifting. The small business owner who is not able to go back to their business and suffering that kind of loss. The non-working artist, where no art is coming in and no art is going out, or art is getting created, but there's not funding coming for it. We have to start where we are. What are your, really looking at things like, those of you who have already perhaps filed for unemployment or small business support. Maybe you're waiting on the help to come in and the finances are getting low and you need to be able to support yourself. Thinking about what your immediate needs are now and be able to gain focus and determine and set goals. It starts with really knowing yourself and identifying what those core skills and competencies are that you have that you want to apply to the job market. Evaluating those current interests. It may not be about finding your your ideal job at this point. It may be assessing your current skills and identifying what you really would like to learn at this point, and using research on the opportunities that are out there, and identifying what you wish to learn during this time period. Let's go to the next slide. Slow-moving slide.
It is slow-moving slide. I am sorry about that.
This should be number 4.
I'm trying. There we go. Okay.
Okay. Starting the search. Okay. So at this point, we really need to think about being proactive, using this time really to strengthen your candidacy. You know, people ask, yeah, but, you know, are there jobs out there? What's the point of even job searching if there's no job and we're not able to get to it? Well, there are jobs out there. So that's the good news, but they may not be your dream job. You may need to reassess and think about, okay, well, using my background and using my skills, what are the industries out there that are hiring or maybe are going to be experiencing growth as a result of this crisis? There's always opportunities even in crisis. Learning about them, using some of our resources. We have an online video platform called Candid Career, where if you can explore areas, maybe let's just say the healthcare field, because that obviously is doing better now as far as the industry goes, although there are major crises, and obviously it's very, very terrible in terms of the impact that the pandemic is having, but there are needs because we need to fulfill job opportunities with healthcare professionals, but also people who work on the sidelines in the healthcare industry. So learning about the industries that they are experiencing growth and need, things that you may not have ever considered before. For example, you know, writers, if you're a writer, and you've always been wanting to write for a publication or for the media or working in broadcast in some capacity, well, think about writing for public relations. You know, knowing that there are industries that are in need of people who can write and present and know about the media, public relations, content writing, social media, technical writing, industries such as telehealthcare, which is a growing area, growing in leaps and bounds, Instacart, Zoom, Slate, Scribe. There's a whole bunch of them that Jessica's going to be talking about later, but you need to be able to be open and ready to apply, to think a little bit differently about the industries that maybe you were looking to enter. You might be able to do the thing that you want to do in terms of using your skills, but in an unprecedented market, job seekers need to demonstrate that they're resilient and they can fill a need, and they need to be able to maybe take a seat, that expression meaning where you can fill the need and fill the opportunity. Being creative, but also being practical. And I hate to say this, but you may need to put the dream career on hold, even if it's temporary. It's important for us to look for opportunities outside the comfort zone and find value in the roles that you may be asked to play. We have to know what's in our control and what's not in our control. Let's go to the next slide.
I'm gonna try. Okay.
Okay, there it goes. Okay. Key strategies in preparing your search. It's really a matter of getting organized. We're going to self-assess and evaluate your needs. Self-evaluation is really important. Knowing about yourself will help you guide your own personal career path. Look at the contributions that you've made already, whether that be throughout your education or through internships or jobs that you've had or experiences that you've already had. What are your abilities and skills? How have you branded yourself in the past, or how are you starting to self-brand or self-market yourself? Does it align with the industries and the career areas that you're targeting? If it doesn't, then you may need to reassess and craft a new resume or different resumes for different kinds of opportunities. Cover letters obviously get tailored depending on the area that you're targeting. pitch letters, artist statements, Instagram, websites. This is all part of your marketing materials, and now is a really good time to pull them together. We will talk about how to go about that and how important that is, as well as your LinkedIn profile. You know, you want to be able to appear in more employer searches. You want to have a keywords rich LinkedIn profile if you haven't done so already. We will be giving you links to a LinkedIn webinar that happened a couple of weeks ago that we had a guest speaker, and he was able to share some wonderful information about building your profile and how to outreach to employers and how to search for jobs on LinkedIn. It's a great resource, so if you haven't really cultivated enough, now is a great time to do that in terms of preparing yourself. Okay, let's see. Your overall job search strategies also, you'll be able to network with leadership through LinkedIn and alumni, and that's really important, is to think about your how you can reach out to alumni. We have alumni mentors through our Alumni Mentor Network, which is something that a number of you have already joined and you're part of as an alum. But as an alum, you also have access to alums. You have access to more experienced alums who you can discuss, and you can tap their expertise and maybe get some guidance and help in learning how to cultivate your skills, identify, and maybe really enrich your self-marketing through advice through alumni. You also can take advantage of the help that's available through career development. We have career coaches, of course. We do Zoom sessions, webinars, chats. Now is the time to really take advantage of the resources that you have here. We do see undergraduates, we do see alumni up to 3 years out, and the alumni beyond 3 years can participate in all sorts of the different services that we have as well, and we can talk about that a little bit more later. Okay, I think that I'm going to now pass the baton over to Jeff. This is one of our quotes that we do like. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. So we have to start motivating ourselves and moving to the next step. So Jeff.
Hi, everyone. So I'd like to start off by introducing this word cloud. As you can see, job search is essentially at the heart of it. So what I want to do for a quick brainstorming activity is I'd like you to, in the chat, select a word or two that either stands out the most to you or maybe contribute a new word for job search and skills. I see networking, fantastic. Education, networking, certainly. Expertise. Innovation, I like that. Training, LinkedIn. Work study apprenticeship, yes. Applied learning definitely is good. Skills, certainly. All right, so now that we've gotten a little bit of those creative juices flowing, we can go on to the next slide and talk about skill building. So with this slide, what we want to talk about is how can we become more marketable? What can we do to develop some of these skills that'll help you to land the jobs or opportunities that you want to be a part of? So the first thing you want to ask is, what currently do you have in terms of your skill set, abilities, and competencies? So with that, there are a couple of different things you can do. You can identify and address any gaps in your skill sets. I know that very likely if you've been looking at applications, you may see that they're looking for experience or technical skills that you may or may not have. So it's a good way to identify where you currently stand and what is something that you are looking to acquire. And then from there, you're able to know the skills and competencies that you wish to learn and develop. There are ways to do this. You can have professional learning experiences that will help to demonstrate competencies in the specific areas or specialties. At the same time, that'll help to distinguish you in a competitive marketplace badging on social media, for example, like LinkedIn, your transcript, meeting a market demand. At the same time, it'll help you to seek out resources for skill training. So this way you can say, okay, I know that they're asking for ABC 1, 2, 3, and in order to get that, I have to do my research. I have to do this, this, and that. So we'll talk about that though. And in addition to that, once you develop that skill, and that's a part of your toolkit, you can create samples of your work using that new skill. That'll help to build your online portfolio. You can use that on your resume, your LinkedIn, and that way you can show it off and market it to employers. Next slide, please. Thank you. So with that, first we'll talk about continuing your education and being a lifelong learner. Personally, that's something I always enjoyed. And so there are a couple different ways to continue your education. I want to say it's probably safe to say that most of us have a little bit more free time now, so let's use that productively. The first is by gaining micro-credentials for specialty areas. There are a couple different ways to do that, and I'll also be talking about it in the next slide. There's plenty of free online training. I promise you, we've been doing a lot of webinars. In fact, a lot are sitting on the back burner as recordings because there's a lot to learn, certainly. Podcasts, TED Talks, these are great ways to keep up to date with best practices and trends in the industry. In addition, reading key books and resources in your field, this is a good way to know who is successful right now and why are they successful. Excel, Adobe Creative Cloud, etc. So any software that you happen to know is certainly marketable or employers are looking for, it's something that you want to keep your skills up to date. So for example, let's say a semester or two ago or a year more so ago, you took a class on Excel, right? And so you're pretty comfortable. You think, you know, I know Excel, but maybe there have been new advances in the technology, new strategies, whatever the case may be. And so you don't want to get too comfortable on that, and instead make sure that you're up to date on what's going on and how you can use what you've already learned. And graduate school pursuits. So just in case if you're thinking of continuing your education, going back to school, that's certainly fantastic, and it can help you to go higher in your career or start a career, which certainly does require that. From there, we'll talk about experiential learning. So gaining postgraduate internship for experience, this is fantastic. It's a great way to explore the industry, make connections, network, have recommendations, all of those wonderful things. In addition, you can also volunteer or do service learning, especially right now, even if it may not be related to your career of interest, you can certainly volunteer. There's a lot of need going on with COVID-19. So if you want to be a part of that, that's great. It looks wonderful on your resume, and it's a nice thing to do. There's gigs and freelancing, of course, depending on the industry you're interested in. Projects, virtual and in-person if possible. I would say it's likely going to be a hybrid. You start virtually, and once things are safe, then you can go on site and be a part of the project. Remote work as well for those of you, as we are currently using Zoom, plenty of work meetings and checking with your employer once you have an assigned project, and that way you can work independently, show some of those wonderful skills that you've developed to be successful, and then you can check in remotely or virtually. And essential jobs that may be unrelated to your field. As Wendy mentioned, sometimes it's good to develop skills or gain a position where you can have transferable skills that'll lead you to what you want to do. So for example, teamwork or leadership is never a bad skill to have, regardless of where you're going to end up. So if you can do it somewhere else and you can say, you know, during COVID-19, I was volunteering and assisting and working with the community, that's never a bad thing. We can go to the next slide. All right. And so as I mentioned, micro-credentialing, certainly there are a couple different things out here. And as I mentioned, we will be giving the slide as a PDF, so you can click on all of these hyperlinks, don't worry. So there's a couple things, I'm sure some names stand out, such as Harvard University, and there's Yale as well. In fact, with that Yale course, as Wendy was speaking earlier, one of their most popular courses is the Science of Well-Being. And it's not just necessarily about stress management, which is always important, but it's also how to develop productive habits. Because I can tell you right now, everyone is pretty much inside, and there are plenty of ways to be distracted. So if you can show your persistence, your grit, and say, you know what, I do my homework on my bed, but I know I may be tempted to take a nap, so instead I'm going to create a workspace. And that way I can know that when I'm in this area, it's to do my work, it's to network, it's to do a new application, whatever the case may be. And Also, on your resume or your LinkedIn, it'd be wonderful to put the fact that you took a Harvard course or Coursera or something that would develop a new skill for you. So again, let's say Excel. For those of you who maybe have never used it or have used it in a basic sense, this is a nice way to either gain a certification, gain a micro-credential and say, you know what, I know this job is asking for Excel, so I'm going to say that I'm qualified because I did this, and I can show that off. Oh, and for LinkedIn Learning, lynda.com, it can be fee-based, so just in case, check if your local library offers a free service or a subscription. And all Purchase College students can apply for a Westchester Library card to help out with that. And if you have any questions, connect with us. And from here, I will pass it off to Jess. Thank you, Jess.
Hello. Let's see if I can advance to the next slide. Okay. Hello. So I'm just going to talk just briefly about kind of resume creation and recreation, and just see some things to think about now. It's a great time to look at your resume. And when I say resume, I could mean your LinkedIn profile as well, and see what can be updated or added. So one of the key things is really creating customized versions and really modifying for different career paths and pursuits. Because right now you may be looking for different types of opportunities that could be pretty different from each other possibly. So you may need 2 or 3 different versions of your resume. And that could even just be a simple change of placement or headings or summary. But still, sometimes those small changes can make a difference when someone's looking at your resume. As you are searching for opportunities, be sure to add keywords from your research, what you are seeing as you're looking for opportunities. You may be seeing certain skills or experiences mentioned more than once, and you're thinking, oh, I have that experience and I have that skill. Am I reflecting that? Is that on my resume? So really make sure that you're mentioning that. And if a skill is very much being asked for, make sure it's on your resume multiple times if you can. So for example, if they're asking for Adobe Photoshop, not only have it in your skills section, but if you have used that in an experience, make sure you're mentioning that when you're describing that experience. It just will, kind of reiterate that skill. Be sure you're including all of your experience. This can be projects, these can be academic projects, personal projects, definitely depending on the field you're in. So for example, if you are in IT, you maybe do a lot of personal projects. If you're in film, you may do personal projects. It doesn't just have to be related to a job or to an internship or to academics, but those should be included too. If you have a nice amount of leadership or a couple of experiences, you could have a leadership section. You should have professional development if you're part of any professional organizations, if you've been part of any committees or presented, if you've done volunteer or community work or other involvements. I think sometimes we forget on the resume to put that other involvement and experience. Kind of on the same thing, you can customize your headings and categories to fit your experience. The resume is not one size fits all, and really make sure it's customized to you. Just 2 really quick tips. Just focus on your output, the results of your work, instead of your input, your tasks. A really very simple example of this is if you are at a front desk position and you're answering phones and greeting guests. You don't want to just say, I answered phones and greeted guests, right? You would say, communicated with vendors, staff, and clients, and assisted them to get to their next step with ease, something like that. So that's output versus input. And then really quantify when you can. So let's say you are working in social media, as you're a social media assistant or an intern, and in your time you saw that engagement had increased by 50%. That's something that can go on the resume. So just some really quick tips. And we can always help further with that. So let's talk about LinkedIn. I'm only going to say a few things about LinkedIn because what I really want you to do is watch the Maximize LinkedIn recording from the presentation we had a few weeks ago from Pietro, who's a national trainer on LinkedIn. You'll get the link. It's on our YouTube channel, and it really covers everything. But just a few things. So really be sure that to develop a profile that, is robust, and that's for network building, employer engagement, and job search. And if you already have a profile, review it. make sure, go through all those sections that they give you and make sure you're putting everything that you can. Remember, LinkedIn doesn't have a real limitation like a resume may with length. So you can really put more on LinkedIn. You be sure you engage on LinkedIn, follow employers of interest, post comments, engage with alumni, join groups, use it to its fullest. See it as an online portfolio, a place to have a professional presence, a place for job search, and a place for networking. Following Get Hired right now is a great thing to do on LinkedIn because it's going to give you some real-time information about companies that are hiring. If you're using LinkedIn for a job search, before to really use those all filters to really get the search that's right for you. And of course, watch the video. So let's talk a little bit more about networking. Sorry. So really network and engage with purpose. You really want to build and revive your relationships. And what I mean by that is, we often let, communications fall with people we've worked with in the past, colleagues, peers who maybe you interned with, and to no fault of your own, but now it's time to revive some of those relationships, especially, I'm sure all of you personally have been reaching out to people maybe you haven't spoken to in a while because you're thinking about them in this time. So that could be the same for people that you have worked with or managers you've had. And I'm not saying to reach out and say, hi, how are you? Do you have a job opening? But just really checking in with them. And then you have them back in your life and someone who can be there to maybe possibly help you as you're looking for opportunities. Create your own opportunities to network. And I think this is key. I think we often rely on others to do this. So we want to find those meetings, those webinars, those, meetups, those groups, but you could be the one to create those opportunities as well, to host meetings, to gather people together, to talk, to connect with other students, alum, and take that initiative. It's a good time to increase your digital presence and brand, especially depending on what field you're in. So if you're using social media to help with your professional brand, make sure you're really sharing meaningfully on it. Obviously, this would definitely be true in LinkedIn. If you are comfortable doing so, write and talk about your industry on LinkedIn or blogs or videos or podcasts, or, be really a part of your industry and what you're passionate about. BuzzFile is a good, is a really great resource to really get detailed information on companies and organizations. And actually it's really great because you actually search by like how many people are employed there by major as well, which would be great for students or recent alum. I know Wendy had already mentioned the Purchase College Alumni Mentor Network. This is a great opportunity for both mentors and mentees. And as, let's say, a recent alum, you can be both a mentor and a mentee, or you could choose, maybe you just at this moment want to be a mentee, but it definitely gives you different ways to be part of it. And it's once you join it, it is really up to the mentee to reach out to the mentor, and it's all done through the platform. So there really isn't any harm in joining and looking, because you can kind of be passive for a little bit if you want to as well. Really look at affinity and industry groups, professional associations, really engage and participate. And then really, I think we were talking about this before too, but just looking at other opportunities that maybe you didn't think about before. Some of you may already be freelancing, but those who haven't, freelancing, gigging, consulting. I'm just going to talk briefly about some of the areas. Wendy had mentioned a few of these as well. So these are just some job market trends that we have been seeing and hearing about from our many webinars and reading about, and many of you may already obviously know healthcare. But I think what we forget about in healthcare, it's not just the direct patient positions, it's beyond that. So even beyond like nursing and all those care positions, but patient advocacy, mental health, health insurance, pharmacy. Obviously, we know that one of the essentials right now is the retail and food service. So they are hiring, but then other industries are hiring too. So things like legal services and IT and web and digital marketing and social media marketing, you know, we are definitely seeing opportunities out there, and more are, you know, posting for remote opportunities as well. So definitely you don't want to stop looking. You should, you know, still be searching and seeing in your industry, what are you seeing? So the next slide or two, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You're going to be getting this, you just to have all the resources, but just real quick. So right on the homepage of our website, we are keeping an updated list of different resources, job search, job openings, beyond what is on Purchase Job Score, which is our online system where opportunities are posted. That is for students and alumni. So really kind of looking at both places, so you can have access to those opportunities. As an alum, if you haven't been on Purchase Job Score in a while and forgot your login, or if your username was your purchase email and you need help getting back on, please let us know. If you're a student and need help getting on, please let us know. Looking also, we have a nice list on our website broken down by major, which also can be kind of considered industry. And there are just great sites there, both job resources as well as professional associations and other industry sites that can really kind of be helping this time, especially doing research and things like that. New York Hire Now is a really great site of really jobs that are, it's from the Department of Labor, New York, and job openings in New York now, and it's being updated daily. So that's a really great site. The New York State Contact Tracing Initiative, we just found out about it this week. So these are remote jobs focusing on contact tracers, which is following up with those who have been in contact with somebody who has been diagnosed with COVID-19. These are all remote positions, and the hiring has just begun on this. And then the rest really are different resources and lists for places that are hiring, websites for jobs, and I definitely recommend taking a look. And then my last slide, sorry. So, and just to kind of continue with that, looking at some of you who will be looking for a bit more of those more short-term freelance, looking at different opportunities that are out there, you know, so some like resources like resume writing tips specifically for remote jobs, freelance job sites, RiseWorks, things in like LinkedIn Profinder, so really freelancer.com. So those are really great for those opportunities. Ripen is an organization that offers micro internships, works with schools and employers to come up with these small projects or micro internships. And we're going to have more information about that soon for students. So please keep an eye out for that information about those opportunities. So all, you know, really different ways to continue to gain experience. So I'm going to go to the next slide and just give it back to Wendy.
Yes, I'm still on here. Okay. Yeah, I think, you know, there's an enormous amount of information out there, and we were doing as much curating as we could for the purposes of this workshop to really, you know, share and let you know that once you dig in and once you start to reassess, okay, well, what am I looking for? What are the opportunities, and how can I apply my background to some of these opportunities? I think you'll find that it will motivate you as you see that, okay, there are some things out there, and there's different creative ways I can apply my background. You know, these are some very broader resources that we're seeing. Vault, everybody's heard about Vault, Glassdoor, so you can actually research specific employers and find out more about what people say about these employers. Are they good places to work? And you can get some inside information about the employer before you decide to look for alumni who might be working for those organizations, and then maybe even apply or do some informational interviewing. Candid Career we mentioned before. I wanted to also mention the Career One Stop that you see. Every every town has a one-stop. The White Plains one-stop is the one that we work most closely with. But for alumni who are looking for career coaching that we might not be able to do extensive career coaching with more seasoned alumni, but we certainly can offer some initial assistance. But the Career One Stop has career coaching, has resources, and they also have links to small business, the Small Business Association and the SCORE organization called SCORE for those who are entrepreneurial and looking to think, well, maybe this is a time that I might want to launch my own personal entrepreneurial ventures. They have the SCORE program that runs through the One Stop. So definitely take a look at that as well. The Department of Labor, of course, has the information about unemployment. But any of you who have already tried to file for unemployment and got stuck with, okay, well, we know that there's millions of people who are in the same situation. Eventually, they will get to you, but there are challenges. So you're not always going to get a real person, but be patient because this is unprecedented, and eventually you can get some of the help that you need. You also might want to take a look at our article that we have on navigating your career, which talks about a lot of the things that we've already talked about. But that's an article that's on our website. Let's go to the last slide. I think is just our final proverb: in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. Hopefully, some of the things that we shared with you today will help keep you motivated. Please feel free to connect with us, whether that be through our LinkedIn alumni group or through our Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook and like us, and be part of the Twitter feed. See what's going on through career development, take part in some of the other opportunities and workshops we have coming up. We're more than happy to work with you and maybe connect with you for some other insight and opportunities for further guidance. So with that, I'll pass it back to our alumni coordinator, Alexandra. And thank you for listening in, and we're happy to answer questions as we move forward in the workshop today.
Hello. I wasn't sure if Jeffrey was going to
yeah, I can take it.
Part, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
No, that's fine. If I can just cut in and say that thank you all for listening to our presentation today. And now we'll have our alumni from the Alumni Association talk about key strategies from their experience, as well as any reflection from the workshop we just did. So we'll start off with Kevin from class of 2010.
Wonderful.
Hey, can you all see me and hear me? I hope so. Thank you all for putting this presentation together. It's someone who has graduated 10 years ago and not in similar uncertain times, but definitely walking into something unprecedented. I do think the best thing to do is pretty much, stick to your fundamentals. I would say, I would stress the importance of someone. So I am graduating with my master's this year. And, one thing I would say to my younger self is to stay engaged with your faculty members, whether it be just, hey, just checking up on you. Hey, I saw this article reminding me about this course that I took with you. Just to when they see your name and a request for letter of recommendation is not as awkward. So I work in higher education in that field, which is technically a nonprofit, which is a whole another thing. But I would say, for people who are entering the education sector, nonprofit sector, one of the things I always tell my students is to, before any job search, obviously look at do a quick Google search of the company, but most importantly, look at the organizational chart. If you see a position open, see who it reports to, what that person's background is, try to get information upon things that they might like, and I would say for not-for-profits and in higher education, a lot of people who are managers are people who are giving presentations, who have recorded speeches somewhere. So if you can try to get a head start to try to see what the person's philosophy is, I think is really much a good advantage to you. And one thing I would say during this time period where, hiring isn't as where it would be in a non-COVID world, is to use that same philosophy of looking up an organizational chart, seeing who's where, and then also still making that connection, saying, hey, I know, if you're in the arts, hey, I noticed that you run this gallery. I know, like, obviously the gallery's not open, but I would love to like work with you in some capacity when you do reopen. Nothing is wrong with those soft, targeted, we'll love to work with you, love to chat with you once things are stable. At least you're on people's radar. So, if there is an opportunity that comes up, I do think it'll definitely help you. So I would say, just to recap before I pass it on, just to, stay engaged with your faculty members. Definitely use tools like LinkedIn and Google as your resource. And then last thing I'll say is definitely with the alumni network, I'd be ashamed if I didn't plug it. Definitely using the mentoring network, but also the Facebook group and also the LinkedIn group. Any alum can post, not just the administrator. So if you're like, hey, I'm in California, is anyone here from California? I want to connect. You can post that. There's no, just keep it professional, but there's a network out there for you. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Kevin. And congratulations on the master's. So next we'll have Anjanette from class of 2011.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for putting this together. I think it was a very helpful and a way for us to understand how we're navigating through this time. I think a strategy that I can that gives value to what I am in. I'm currently in the merchandising footwear industry, so of course I'm dealing with retail product. So I think the best thing for me, my lesson was being able to be relatable and being able to not be afraid to be passionate about something. In order for me to move as far as I've gone in my career, my passion has been my drive. And because I've been passionate about fashion in itself, I was able to move to so many different platforms in terms of the jobs I've had within the industry that I work in. So I think my ability to have passion for what I did actually made me move forward in my career a lot. And I think the next thing I would say is also being able, as Kevin approach was, to have those faculty members be able to write you recommendations when needed to, because a lot of those faculty members have been in my quarters since day one. And those faculty members have helped me get to where I needed to get to. So not only at Purchase College, because I was at Purchase, but I also was at Iona College for my master's. So those faculty members have pointed me in the right direction in order for me to move forward into my career now. So I think those are the two things I would definitely hone on. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And next we'll have Derek from class of 2015.
Hey everyone, so thank you for the career development, for putting this together, and for my fellow alumni for speaking as well. So I'm from the class of 2015, though I actually identify as 2014. I took an extra semester to really put work into my senior project. I'm currently working as an urban planner in East Harlem, which is not what I intended to do when I graduated Purchase. I graduated Purchase with a degree in cinema studies, gender studies, and a minor in political science. I had an intention to take 2 years kind of working random jobs, kind of exploring New York City, and intended to go into a PhD program and become a professor. That didn't happen. During those 2 years, I began working as a tour guide in New York City, and it was just kind of a fun job to kind of, pay the bills. It was fun, but it was definitely temporary when I started it. From that job, though, I discovered that I didn't really want to be a professor in cinema studies. I wanted to learn more about New York City and work to help New York City. part of the way that I came to that realization too was, like my other alumni said, keeping those connections with faculty who were able to step in. And when I was thinking about applying for PhD programs, they said, it doesn't sound like this is actually what you want to do. And that kind of made the difference. So I explored more what this sort of side hustle was, why I felt so passionate about it, and ended up going into urban planning. So I guess from that story, my biggest career strategy is to listen to yourself, listen to what motivates you. I think Purchase prepared us really well to be able to be flexible and follow our passions.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. And if we can get Pietro as well to say a few words, please.
Hey, how are you? How you doing?
Hi, Pietro.
Hello. 1988 or 19th century. I'm not sure when I graduated, but it's a long time ago. From Purchase, what I learned a lot was there's so many ideas and so many people around that I was able to learn from that. It inspired me just to learn. Whatever I did, I had to do it 100%. So that was my motto, to practice everything I did 100%. So if at my worst, the thing I knew what to do was 100% because I never knew anything lower. So with that in mind, with advices from friends and so forth, I found out that getting a job is a full-time job. So that's one thing you have to get in your mind right away. Now, you guys have said so much here. I really don't have anything else to say because everything you said is perfect. But just to add to that, I would say that getting a job is definitely a full-time job. So you get up in the morning and your goal is to get a job. You make a bunch of resumes, which I did. I made tons of different resumes. One for this particular company, one for this particular company, one for this particular company. And I learned about the company, like someone said earlier, and I made my resumes targeted to that company, along with a cover letter. Found out who was hiring, and with that, I tried to make phone calls so they remember my name. So when they got across my resume, they will say, "Hey, I heard about this guy." So I used to call a lot sometimes, just so I can talk to somebody. What else can I say to you guys real quick? One thing I did that helped me a lot was networking. I network every day. I went out, I went to clubs, I volunteered to places, I went to churches. I mean, anything that was related to television, actors, meetings, whatever, I was involved. In my case, I joined the Television Academy, and that helped me tremendously a lot. A lot of friends from college, from Purchase, guided me to different places. Since I knew a lot of artists, I used to go to their art openings and try to mingle with different people. And believe it or not, I got a lot of jobs from that, a lot of clues where to go. A lot of people told me which doors to open, and I did. I knocked really hard, and I went in right in there. And networking helped me a lot. Networking, also volunteering, and I think that's really what I got to say. But remember, getting a job is a full-time job, and don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, the alumni are here. We all went through this. We're willing to help and give you guidance or anything we can do. So never be afraid to ask, and you know, good luck. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. That was wonderful. So I'd like to thank all of our alumni speakers. Thank you so much. And from now, we will turn the floor open to questions. So feel free to type your question in the chat. And also you can use the raise hand feature if you prefer to unmute yourself and ask your question. Oh, and I would like to mention that the alum are welcome to answer as well. So our first question from Brittany is, how do I get a job experience while still being able to pay my bills? Internships are kind of a no-go for me for that reason. Wendy, you look like you want to jump in.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in and then maybe others will follow. That that's a great question because there's always the feeling, whether you're a graduating senior or you're an alum who's, well, I need to pay my bills. That's first and foremost. But I'm trying to build my resume and get experience and skills. I think that Jeff's discussion and suggestion about doing some skill building and credential enhancing through these free courses, micro-credentialing, those things can help you build your skills. It may not be the job experience necessarily, since you have to work and you have to pay your bills, but you can develop the skills that you'll use in different kinds of jobs. And also Pietro's suggestion about volunteering and offering your services, while you're doing something that maybe is not the career that you want necessarily, but you're paying your bills. You've got to take a seat somewhere. Get a job because you got to pay bills, but do other things that are going to build the skills that you need to enter the field that you want to eventually enter. That might be that's my first suggestion. I don't know if other folks want to add to that.
Someone I was at this conference and this speaker talked about how everyone wants their dream job right away. But if they got their dream job tomorrow, they would probably fail at it. And the reason why is, so one thing I've always learned is, whatever your dream job is, learn what the job description is. And I think every job before that job should add to your skill base of why. So pretty much if your goal is to, I don't know, if your goal is to be a social media, the chief social media officer for Nike, right? Look at who the person is now, what did they do, what the job description is. And every job up until you have that job should really add to your case about why you're qualified. So I always believe with every job, whether it's volunteering, whether it's like an internship, or if it's a 9-to-5 job that's not related to your profession or your interest, you should come away with at least one skill. Like Jessica mentioned before, I started my career as an admin in an office. It wasn't just more about answering phones and directing traffic. It's like talking to students, talking to parents, talking to prospective students, talking to the chief of staffs of, whomever dignitaries. So it's more than that, right? So I think it's the way you say it, the way you phrase it, but definitely try to gain a skill, a job, but also look at, whatever your dream goal or your dream job is. What is the job description? Are you qualified today? What are you missing? And what are some areas that you can like shade in that gray?
I would just like to jump in and thank you, Kevin, to add that certainly it can depend on how much time you can commit, because things such as micro internships, which are smaller project-based experiences, those may fit better for your schedule. And that way you're still able to get some of that experience, be able to put an organization and make some connections on your resume, LinkedIn, whatever the case may be. So especially now that we're in a virtual kind of remote project area, I would say take a look into that and see what works best for you. Happy to help, Brittany. And are there any other questions from the audience today? All right, so we have 2 questions in the chat. For the first one, Brandon, I will follow up with you on that one because that is certainly a long and personal question. I'd be happy to work with you on what we can do regarding autism-friendly employers. For the second question, what is a good approach to tailoring a header on a resume? Would someone like to take that, or if not, I can do so.
Do you want me to, Jeff?
Sure, please.
So I guess for tailoring a header on a resume, do you mean just kind of like just if you want to just, do you mean like the section headers, or do you mean like your summary? Or you could unmute yourself. Summary. Okay, got it. I think it really is about, to me, a really good summary is showing your skills and being able to say something brief about your experience, kind of like a highlights. And this is really going to change for whatever job you're applying to. So if you want to say, to tailor it about a certain amount of years experience you have in something, or a skill that you have. And in a way, like, so I don't know if you're on LinkedIn, but if you created your own LinkedIn headline, that's not just taking the first job that you have, think of that as, taking that LinkedIn headline and putting it there in that summary as well. Then as far as tailoring it, it really is going to depend on the job. So if you are seeing a job where they're specifically asking for like a certain amount of experience, like must have 5-year experience in direct customer service, then you want to make sure that is in your summary, because they may not want to dig down to your experience for that, and they'll see that right away. Really kind of reading that description can help tailor it to each one. But I will say that if you're applying to a number of similar jobs, the summary, if you're using a summary, it may not change for every job too, but just be sure that you really look at it as well. Did that answer your question? And if anyone else wants to add anything. Jeff, were there other questions coming in?
So we had a follow-up, but I answered it in the chat about the Counseling Center, Wellness Center for like anxiety and just stress management in this time, and some resources online as well as the slide for personal care. And just in case, if there are any other questions, please feel free to let us know. And if you have our contact information as well as from the slides, you can always shoot us some emails as well.
Got a lot of shy people out there, huh?
So I'll just take this moment again to thank everybody for coming in and listening to us, as well as the alumni engagement, to partner up with us, our alumni speakers from the Alumni Committee, and just thank you everyone, and hope you're all doing well.
I want to just jump in too and just say that, to the alums and to the students that are out there, one wonderful thing about Purchase, and I've now worked at Purchase for, 18 years, and I know a number of the alums who are on the webinar and in the audience there. I have always been so moved and so impressed by the alums at Purchase, and when students love Purchase, they love Purchase with a passion, and they give back to Purchase students. The alums are amazing. And I worked for a large university before coming to Purchase, and I would never want to have it another way. Purchase is just takes care of their own and will give back to each other. And I think that it's in this time, in this crazy job market and this crazy time, that we all need to be supportive of each other. the alumni are stepping in and are there for you. So just keep that in mind and utilize the services that we have, and utilize the help that's offered to you from the alums. So thank you. I just want to say thank you for attending the webinar as well.
Also, I just saw in the chat that from Rebecca Bruckenstein, she's our co-chair from our Young and Future Alumni Committee. So she was just thanking everyone there as well. So it's been a real collaborative event. So we're really happy about that. And we hope that everyone, alumni and students, were able to get something out of this.
Great.
Hi guys, I just want to leave you with a final thought. Something someone said to me in a call today about my journey when I was speaking to my manager in terms of moving up. And she definitely mentioned something about trusting the process. So I definitely would leave you guys with trust the process in terms of the 10-year-old self that started out in Purchase College.
Your voice disappeared.
It got muted.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry. I don't know why my computer keeps muting.
You were on your 10-year-old self.
my 10-year-old self who started Purchase College 10 years ago is not the person that I am today. So I was very willing to trust my process, and even though I went through trials and tribulations to get to where I am at, but the process that I took, as Kevin definitely said, every job that I had motivated me to get to the next level and built me on a skill. So definitely trust your process. So today you might not have that dream job, but 10 years later, I have the dream job that I was actually willing to have. So I think just trusting the process and being able to just take a lesson from every industry, even if you work at a grocery store, if you work at a grocery store for right now, one gift that you can give is the fact that you're able to negotiate and you have a gift of gab where you're able to relate to people. So that's a skill that is definitely needed along the line to move forward. So take that, hone in on that, and then move forward. So definitely trust the process.
Well said.
One more thing also. We live in a crazy world that we live in right now. One thing is for sure, look at it in a positive way. Yeah, I mean, it's totally bad what's going on. But at this moment, we can all think that this is a moment for us to find who we are. And we have this moment to do that. Take the positive side and find who you are and get ready, because what's coming, once this is over, you're going to be ready to take over the world. So get ready to explode. And right now is the moment where you can go to sleep, relax, and just do what you need to do and create what you need to create, because you're not going to have the chance to do this again. You're not going to be quiet ever again. Once it is over, and once the wheels get going again, good luck if you ever get to sleep again. So I would say this is a moment where you find yourself and get ready to explode as soon as this is over, because I'm telling you, you're not going to be alone. There's going to be a lot of people exploding, a lot of people giving out their best. And so you're going to be competing with a lot of people ready to show their best. So right now, whatever your best is, make it better, make it awesome. Go over, always when you make this line, go to this line. You make this line, go to that line. Keep tapping yourself, because a lot of people are going to be doing the same thing now. Like I said, this is a calm before the storm. Once things get going, whoa. So get ready.
That's a good note to leave on. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're going to end everything here. Thank you again to the CDC and for all of our alumni board members for speaking today. Like everyone said, we really appreciate when our alumni give back. And we hope that some of you that might still be here in the audience that haven't really engaged with us or have given their time might consider doing so during this time. So I guess, I don't know if Jeffrey, you had one last thing you needed to say?
I think something that probably we're all experiencing or just being mindful of now is that how much we miss being around other people. So as the topic was partly for networking, remember that, as Pietro said, once this is all over and you're able to meet people and network and create connections, not just with your peers at Purchase, but your mentors, your professors, supervisors, anyone, just cherish those and keep moving forward.
All right, everyone, have a good evening. Thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.